On September the 30th, the Azerbaijani-Armenian War entered its third day with another increase in casualties and victorious communiques from both sides. In the morning, the Azerbaijani Defense Ministry claimed that its forces had put out of service an Armenian S-300 long-range air defense system near the village of Shushakent of the Nagorno-Karabakh region. How the long-range system might have appeared near the contact line in the contested region remains a mystery. Meanwhile, the Azerbaijani Defense Ministry announced that its forces had killed or injured up to 2,300 Armenian soldiers or officers, as well as eliminated up to 130 battle tanks and other equipment pieces, over 200 artillery guns and rocket launchers, 25 air defense systems, 6 HQs, 5 weapon depots, up to 50 anti-tank weapons, and 55 vehicles. The Azerbaijani side insists that its forces have victoriously repelled Armenian attacks in the Madagiz area. Clashes, artillery duels and drone strikes are being reported along the entire contact line in the contested region.
When the only constant in life is change, you need to be ready. This is the Man-Made Survival Show.
Hello everyone, my name is Jose Prado with Man-Made Survival. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel and watching this video. I greatly appreciate it because today we're going to be talking about a subject that I had not really touched on before when the news broke out, because it hasn't really been that big of a deal. There hasn't really been a lot of information coming out, but I do want to discuss it because there's other things that I'm going to tie with it, and we do have to pay attention. All right, as you've seen in the beginning of the intro, you know, it's talking about the war between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and I'm going to get into details why it's important, you know, and then I'm going to be tying other events that are going on around the world that we really need to pay attention to. All right, so before I continue any further, I do want to ask you to please subscribe to the channel. Please share this with your friends and family. We're still trying to get to the 1,000 subscribers here in the next few weeks, and we can only do it if you help us out by letting other people know. You know, it's free to you, and it would really help me out. So I would encourage you to do that for me. Also, before I get into this, I want to remind you about the partner that we have. It's greenmedicineencyclopedia.com. And pretty much what greenmedicineencyclopedia.com is about is that it's a computer program where it has a lot of illnesses, but not only that, it gives you the treatment that you can use, you know, the natural medicine. And that is going to be a great tool to have in a crop disease defense scenario, because you know what to plant in a little, you know, medical garden or something like that. And it'll tell you what to use it for. And if you have any questions on the research on it, there's little tabs that you can click on it, and it'll give you the information that you need. You know, it's going to have the backed research from hospitals and universities and stuff like that. So it's not just some random guy writing stuff down. It's based on research, proven research that doctors use today. So I encourage you to go to greenmedicineencyclopedia.com. And on the coupon code, if you put Man-Made Survival on there, our coupon code, you get $40 off, which is incredible. You know, it's a big discount. So I encourage you to go on there. greenmedicineencyclopedia.com. All right, so I don't expect this video to go on very long, but it is really important what I'm going to be talking about, because there's things that we are looking at, and even though we have known this is going on, it's more like, can we really be involved in so many different conflicts around the world and still, you know, come out on top? Because we can only fight so many wars before we're spread out too thin. And even if we have NATO's help, you know, they're even going to be spread out thin. So that's why it's important that I talk about what's going on with Armenia and Azerbaijan, because of the players that are in it. Even though the United States, China, and Russia are not directly involved in it, they can be dragged into it because of the treaties that we have. Okay, for example, Azerbaijan, they are allies with Turkey. And Turkey has come out and say, you know, we're going to help you out. We're going to send military. We're going to send equipment. We're going to help you out in this war. And, you know, you have our backing. And the reason that is important is because if anything happens where Armenia is kicking butt, and Turkey feels like they're being defeated and they need help, they can call on to NATO and say, hey, NATO, I'm invoking the fifth article where you are legally obligated to come help me out. So come help me out. And then that's how you drag the United States into this, and NATO and all the other countries involved in it. All right, and before I go any further explaining this, I want to make sure you understand why they're fighting, Azerbaijan and Armenia. So pretty much just the gist of it is that Azerbaijan owns some territory that Armenian people are pretty much occupying. And every once in a while, they break out into war. And the last time they had a war was back in the 90s. And then, United States, Russia, and France try to work something out. Nothing ever worked. Everybody just went home. And then, about 30 years later, then they're trying to go back into war over it again. So it's like I said, it's not like the biggest deal in the world. It is for the people who's going on there, which is something I'm going to be talking about because I want it to be more about that than the actual conflict, but we'll get to that. Now, on the Armenian side, okay, the reason it's important is because they have a treaty with Russia. And their treaty says that if Armenia is in conflict, then Russia comes in. It's kind of the equivalent to NATO on the Russian part, even though it doesn't have as big of a scope and it doesn't spend as much money in training and has as much influence, going up and down Europe and everything. They would be legally obligated to help Armenia. Russia would. So that's the reason why it's important, because NATO side will drag the United States. Armenian side will draw in the Russians, and then, they can go, head to head, and then all the ICBMs start flying around. Now, the part of China in this is that they're just there to watch, right? They're not active, but if Russia needs help, they're going to call out, and then they're going to come in, and then, that's how you have a world war very, very quickly. And that's not to really ignore that we have been going, and we have been in a Cold War with China. Things starting to heat up. Words are starting to become more aggressive. And now that we're so far, or not so far, but now that we're so close to the election, what could happen? A lot of people have speculated, especially in China and the Asian countries, the Democrats and others, like, what is Trump going to do? What is the October surprise that could keep Trump in office for however long? Because if we have a war, you can bet that Trump will stay in power until the war was over. And if that's a world war, how long could that last? Probably not very long, since we have ICBMs, we have nuclear bombs, we have, all this technology. But the same technology could make it last a lot longer because, we have better modes of transportation. The airplanes go faster, stuff like that. And we can produce more food, we can produce weapons, we can produce everything a lot faster than it was back in World War II. So that is the reason why it could either make it go very, very quickly, or it can make it last a lot longer than it would have in previous years, just because of the technology. Now, one of the articles that you should read, where it's going to give you more details about Turkey pretty much helping out Azerbaijan, is the next one from AP News. AP explains what lies behind Turkish support for Azerbaijan. All right, that's a good article. It's a pretty long article, but I encourage you to read it so you can understand what's going on. And now the next one that I have, it's actually a headline and a video, and that's going to explain more detail about Armenia's treaty with Russia. All right, so the headline is, Armenia is part of a collective security treaty organization. Here's that video to explain.
The Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO, is a Russia-led military alliance of 6 former Soviet states that was created in 2002. The CSTO's purpose is to ensure the collective defense of any member that faces external aggression. It has been described by political scientists as the Eurasian counterpart of NATO. Current CSTO members are Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, the Russian Federation, and Tajikistan. The organization uses a rotating presidency system in which the state leading the CSTO changes every year. Additionally, Afghanistan and Serbia serve as observer states. The CSTO is only the latest iteration of the older Collective Security Treaty, which took effect in 1994, and which at the time also included Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Uzbekistan. 5 years later, these three countries chose not to extend their membership. The organization supports multilateral military training and exercises. Beyond mutual defense, the CSTO also coordinates efforts in fighting the illegal circulation of weapons among member states and has developed law enforcement training for its members in pursuit of these aims. Members also use the organization to carry out and counter cyber warfare, narcotics trafficking, transnational crime, and terrorism. As of 2013, CSTO has 4 types of collective forces. There are 2 regional groups, Russia-Belarus and Russia-Armenia, which are able to react to external military aggression, a 4,000-head collective rapid deployment force for Central Asia, a 20,000-head collective rapid reaction force, both of which are designed to react to situations short of interstate conflicts. There is also a collective peacekeeping force, including around 3,500 soldiers and officers and more than 800 civilian police officers. Regional groupings like the CSTO have been seen to help small developing countries, in particular, confront global competition, as they allow the state to open up to the outside world while protecting national interests. CSTO members receive discounts, subsidies, and other incentives to buy Russian arms, facilitating military cooperation. Most importantly, membership presumes certain key security assurances, the most significant of which is deterring military aggression by third countries. In the CSTO, aggression against one signatory is perceived as aggression against all.
All right, so you saw the video, it gives you the explanation, and that's the reason how Russia would be dragged into all of this. That's why we must pay attention to all of it. And then, again, as I said, with Turkey, we're dragging the United States. Now, here's the other thing. I want to shift things. It's still going to be about that war, but I want you to understand how the citizens are reacting, okay? And to me, I got to say, quite frankly, with all due respect, that some of those people are acting very stupid because they're seeing bombs blowing up right above their heads. They're sticking their head outside their balcony. They're seeing the missiles blowing up drones and everything, and they're still there. They're not hiding. They're not going anywhere. And then everybody is crying because there's a bomb that went off and people died when this conflict has been going on for about 2 weeks now. So that's where the prepper mentality comes in, and you have to have a plan to get out of there. And even if you say, well, I have nowhere to go, where am I going to go? Well, let me tell you that if you get blown up, or if you're at Walmart and then a bomb falls in the middle of your living room and it gets blown up, you still have nowhere to go. So that's why it's important for you to have a plan. And the main thing that I've always said, is that you have to have plans with family that live outside of a major city. Because you can bet that if we were to go to war against Russia, China, anybody, the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to bomb the big cities, because that's where they can get the most casualties, and it would be easier for them to invade the areas and be able to establish air power and all those things. Now, for an invasion, if anybody was to ever try to invade the United States, the main things that people will go for, which, in this case would probably Russia and China, would be that they will go for farmlands, they will go for national parks, they will go for rivers and things like that, because they're going to be the ones that are going to have to feed their people, and using the American farmlands, then they're going to get that and take it over there. Grow stuff here, have the peoples colonizing here, and then sharing the goods over there. So that's how things could go. So that's why it's important for you to get all this information and look at a map and say, okay, this is where they would hit. Here are all the major cities around the United States, and here are all the agricultural areas where all the farmers are, and here's all the rivers in the United States. What is going to be the most likely targets that they would hit while still not contaminating the farmland and not contaminating the rivers and stuff like that, so they can have those farmlands to themselves. Okay, so as I've shared in the past, when you look at a map of all the nuclear reactors in the United States, It's pretty much everything's on the east side. And that is really devastating for everybody in the east. That's something that everybody in the east needs to look at that map, because once you look at it and you realize how many nuclear reactors there is, if there was ever to be a meltdown moment, then pretty much the entire eastern of the United States would become a wasteland. You know, how far will the effects of a nuclear meltdown go? We can't really tell for sure, but we can study it by seeing what happened in Fukushima. You know, there's people in the area that, if I'm not mistaken, you know, I'm going off memory right now. I wasn't thinking about talking about this, but if I'm not mistaken, it was about a 5 or 10 kilometer area that was affected by the meltdown, and throughout all that area, you know, people, there was a 400% increase in cancer. The plants and all the wildlife there, you know, it looks really crazy. There has been pictures that have come out of flowers having 2 flowers in one, stuff like that. So, you know, mutations have happened. So it's really important for us to understand those aspects, because now, if we think of a crisis hit the fan scenario, and that would certainly be one, people who would be living in the areas that is close to one of those nuclear reactors, then if they were to try to go hunt anything, you know, they're going to find a deer or whatever, but it could be contaminated with nuclear waste, because, you know, the deer was running through an area where a nuclear power plant had melted. So that's why it's important for us to talk about all of this, and it's important for us to get this information. Now, the data, going back to Azerbaijan, again, the people are there at the last minute. They're trying to board a bus, and then they can't go anywhere. And actually, I have a video to show you from that. And actually, it's from the BBC.com, and the headline is Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Major cities hit as heavy fighting continues. Here's that video.
So some pretty large explosions carrying on outside now. I'm just going to, along with everyone else who's staying in this hotel, just stay in the basement. This has been the reality of life in Nagorno-Karabakh for the last few days, under assault from the air. It sounds like it's artillery, but there have been drone strikes too.
They are trying to invade, and they do everything to invade, to terror the people, civilians here, and to make panic the people to leave the country.
And you think that's why they're using drones and aerial strikes in this way?
For sure.
This has been a week in which the people of Nagorno-Karabakh have faced assault from the air, both shelling like what hit this building and the use of sophisticated military drones, which basically means that nowhere in this region feels safe. Everybody is scrambling for cover in here. A real reminder, as they were fleeing, as why this place is increasingly dangerous for people. Under attack day and night.
All right, so again, it's really important that we pay attention to that. You know, they were there. They're stubborn, saying that they're not going to leave the area because the opposite people, you know, the enemy, they're just bombing the area because they want people to get scared so they can go away and then they can stay there. You know, that sounds really stupid, because that's the reason they have an army. They can get out of the city safely. They let the army come in, you know, defend the area, make sure that they push back the enemy, and then when they call a ceasefire, then the citizens can come back, rebuild, and then, you know, continue on living their lives. That's how it would work out. You know, you staying there saying, I'm not going to leave because this is my house or whatever, it's not going to help you any, and you're just going to get blown to pieces. Or, you know, you're going to put your loved ones at risk. So if you live in any major city, then I suggest that you get as far away as you can from there, because I'm going to be showing you here later on in the podcast a video that I did back in June, if I'm not mistaken. And it pretty much went into detail on what to consider when you're making your nuclear survival plan. because some of the information I talked about, I had never heard anyone else talk about before. I mean, I'm not saying that, I watch every single prepper out there, but I'm saying that I'm sharing information that's really important that I haven't heard anyone else shared, So I encourage you to share that, to watch that video and get that information. But I'm going to be sharing a little bit of it because you have to make sure that you look into it. Now, I wanna shift things because we have had a lot of problems with China. As far as the trade war goes, they're doing drills. They're saying that they're gonna take back Taiwan. We're saying no, you're not. They want to take back they want to take Philippines. They want to conquer the South China Sea, and we're in the way. We're in their way, and we're pretty much like a stone in their foot, in their shoe, and they're gonna have to do something about it one day eventually, and it's getting to that point. So the headline that I have for you is this: China ramps up a war of words, warning the U.S. of its red lines. As the United States and Taiwan draw closer, state propaganda is sending the message that China will go to war if necessary. This from the New York Times. The soldiers run through the forest, through the surf, through the smoke and flames, ready to die for the motherland. The video, one of a series that has recently appeared online in China, climaxes with the launch of 9 ballistic missiles and a fiery barrage of explosions. Quote, "If war breaks out, this is my answer." The targets are China's main adversaries, the United States and Taiwan, which are moving closer and closer together. The propaganda has accompanied a series of military drills in recent weeks, including a test fire of ballistic missiles and the busing of Taiwan's airspace. Together, they are intended to draw stark red lines for the United States, signaling that China would not shrink from a military clash. So pretty much China is making it clear. They're making it clear saying that they will one day eventually go to war with the United States just to take back Taiwan. Everybody's going crazy over the little island. So that could potentially equals millions of lives destroyed and, dead just within the few days, within a few hours, depending how many ICBMs fly and make a successful touchdown. So if you live in any of the areas that I mentioned, which, major cities, which could include anywhere in California, really, because it's a really big state with a lot of people. Las Vegas, you can be in New York, that's always a big place that the movies always destroy. You can be in Florida. That would be very important for our ports and agricultural area as well. So would be California. Las Vegas, Nevada, that's an important city that is occupied by millions of people. There's different places around the country. But of course, they wouldn't detonate bombs everywhere because they, as I mentioned a minute ago, they don't want to destroy the farmland. They don't want to destroy the rivers. So we have to look into that. And I'm going to be sharing here in just a minute. Now, I have different headlines for you that I'm going to be sharing just so you can get an idea of how China is talking about all of this. And not only that, we are paying attention. The Pentagon is paying attention. Everybody around the United States is paying attention. Everybody in Asia is paying attention. Everybody in Russia is paying attention. As far as the people of war is concerned. Now, there's some citizens who are not paying any attention. I've talked in my private life with people saying, "Did you know this was going on?" And they say, "No, I never thought this was ever going on. Nothing's ever going to happen. It's going to be okay." So for those people, when the day comes when they get blown to pieces, then they're gonna say, I guess Jose was right. And even if they don't, then they're gonna suffer the repercussions of not preparing. So why it's important for us to talk about this and why it's important for us to really prepare? One is because you may not die in an explosion. You may live in the country outside of an area where the city is 50 miles away from you, whatever, or you're not in one of the states with a major city that, that China or Russia would not want to bomb. But it's not so much about you dying in the blast, it's about you surviving it. Because the people who die, then they no longer have to worry about it. They're dead. The people who have to worry about it and endure through all of it, it's going to be the people who survive. Because this is how I see things progressing, okay? First, we're going to have an economic collapse. Then we're going to have war. We're going to see nukes in the United States, which would also include having EMPs, and then an invasion of the United States. Now, that's how I see it. Not just because of the information that I know, from reading news headlines throughout the years and everything that I see now, but, also prophecies from Dmitry Duduman and other people who have said, yes, the United States is going to be destroyed, it's going to be, occupied, whatever. So that is the reason why I see those things coming this way. Now, what we have immediately in front of us is the economic collapse. How much longer can we go printing money? No idea. I guess it's gonna depend on the people who still have faith in the dollar. Whenever that is gone, then it's game over for us. The other thing that we have really close to becoming a possibility here in the next few years, as I mentioned a lot in the past, is war against Russia and China. All right. The reason being is because China is going to be 40% larger economically than the United States will in 4 years by 2024, and by 2032, then they're going to beat us militarily. So it's going to make sense for us to go to war against them while we're still very strong compared to them, and we can beat them up, we can bring them down lower, and then we can still be the top dog around the world. Now, the day is going to come when the U.S. empire falls, because, every empire has fallen over the years. China has always been around, but it's always had its rise and its falls, and it has always gone through a period where it's going up and down. Are we going to go through the same thing? I don't know. But the point is that we're eventually going to hit the point where we're going to go through famine. We're going to go through, poverty. The poverty that we see in South America and other places, in Africa, stuff like that. Then we might come back up and then, be stronger again or be strong again. We don't know. And then the difference between now and what it used to be in the past is that now we're going to a world that is going to be digital. We may not have currency, not physical currency. It all might be in a credit card or debit card or stuff like that. And if the power gets knocked out here in the United States, whether it's cyber attack or it's an EMP, whatever nation that claims the United States next, they're going to have the opportunity to rebuild the society, rebuild everything. And if Russia and China win, then guess what? They're going to bring their communist principles to the United States. And then people who are here, they're going to be ruled by communists. Because if we don't rise up and if we don't fight in that war, if we don't make sure that we live it all right there, in a fight, and they actually win, then our children and our children's children are the ones that are going to be suffering under the communistic rule. I mean, that's just nature. That's just how things happen. That's what happened to China. That's what happened to Russia. That's what happened to Ukraine. That's what happened to Germany. Those things happen. Those are natural. There's no conspiracy here or anything like that. It's just what history has taught us. And we have to go back and look at what history has taught us from having a totalitarian government. Because it can happen in the United States here too. All right, where 80 million people were killed in China, because Mao was risen to power. And then more millions died because Hitler, declared war on the world, and then he tried to conquer everything. So we have to be prepared for those days. Now, here are the headlines that I want to reference to, because it really shows the tone of voice that it's eventually going to tip over, and then it's going to blow up, and then we're going to go to war. All right, here's the first one. China would definitely start a just war if U.S. troops return to Taiwan. The state media says. This is from Zero Hedge. China says killing Americans over Taiwan is morally justified. This from GatestoneInstitute.org. China initiates 5 simultaneous military drills directed at Taiwan. Also from Zero Hedge. Now, here's another one that I have for you that when I looked at it, I was really wondering, or actually made me think, how many wars can the United States be involved in? Bomb threat. Iran warns it's ready for war with the U.S. as it reveals new ballistic missile that could destroy American bases. All right, so if we go to war with Russia because of Armenia, and then we go to war with China because of Taiwan, could we go to war with Iran because of Israel? That's a fair question to ask, because if we don't ask those questions, then we're going to see ourselves, wondering which ally we're going to help. I mean, yes, Turkey has NATO, which is in more than, just the United States. But the United States is pretty much the head of NATO. When you cut the head of the snake, what happens? The rest don't work. And with China would be, or is, a very strong enemy. It wouldn't be an easy task to go to war against them. Now, granted, they are all the way on the other side of the world, but so is Armenia. And if we go to war against Iran for Israel, then how many troops are we gonna dedicate to go over there? Then what you're looking at is the beginnings of a draft. Are you willing to send your kids, your sons and daughters to war over something that you probably don't even agree with, because you understand that it's all theater, that it's all a plot, that it's all conspiracy, whatever? But since they're the ones in control and they want to be in those wars involved, they will have to drag in your sons and daughters. Are you prepared for that? Preparedness is not just one thing. It's not just about food and water. It's a lot of things that you have to look into. All the other scenarios that break out from the scenario you started with. For example, we started with war, but very little people in the prepper community talk about people, your sons and daughters going to war because of all of these wars. We always think about, we're going to be at home, we have to protect ourselves, we have to protect our family, our alliance, and we're going to try to survive through it until the government can get it together, and then we're going to be okay again. But we never think, all right, if we go to war, are we going to send our sons and daughters there? Am I going to have to go? Because you still might be of age. You might be in the physical shape and be, you may be the soldier that they're looking for. Uncle Sam's wants you. Have you thought about, what if they drag me into war? What is going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to my wife, to my kids, to my alliance? Because, I put this prepper group together, but now I'm being sent into war. Is there a contingency plan there? That's something that you have to think about and to plan for. And that's the reason why I'm sharing this with you. And that's why I encourage you to share this with your friends and family, so they can also think about these things. The prepper community doesn't talk about a lot of stuff because we're so, in a lot of cases, we're so self-absorbed into our own survival that we don't think about other aspects of things, right? Sadly, in the United States, the prepper community, it's gear-driven, even though we're going to go through crap has hit the fan, there's still going to be a Walmart available. That's pretty much the mentality of a lot of people in the prepper community. And I'm here to help out. I'm here to change a lot of things, hopefully, being the leader of the Amendment Survival. So we have to talk about these things. We have to do something about it. And I'm glad that you are my audience, that you listen to me. We have about almost 3,000 people listening to this podcast, and to each and every one of you throughout all the platforms, I thank you for listening to this, to staying all the way to the end, because we have to talk about this. Now, what I want to close with is a video that I did, a video that I did back in June that I want to share with you, because you have to watch this video and really get the information that I put on there. Because when we're talking about nuclear detonations, we don't think about how far a dust of or a cloud of fallout can really travel to. Because the bombs that I use on there, which are bombs that are real. You know, the biggest one that was ever tested was the SARS bomb that the Russians had. And really, the history behind that bomb is that in reality, since they tested a 50 kiloton bomb, they really wanted to, megaton, they wanted to in originally do an 100 megaton bomb. So they cut it in half just to see how it would go. And then they were glad that they did it, because from where they were, where they detonated it, some people died, a lot of stuff got destroyed. It was a lot bigger than they ever thought it was going to be. All right, so that bomb is a real bomb that they have in their arsenal. Now, have they, since the testing stopped, you know, quote unquote, do they have something bigger that we don't know about? Maybe, but at least we know that they have that 50 megaton, and we know how to prepare for it, you know, because we can see how big of an area it's going to cover. So again, I encourage you to watch that video. I'm putting it on the screen, or I put it on the screen this whole time I was talking. And make sure you watch it, make sure you take notes. And I'm probably going to do an update on it, because, you know, from the time I did that video to the time now, the audience has increased a lot. So I'm going to do it again. All right, I'm going to put that on the list of things that I'm going to make a podcast for. The title of the video is, watch this video, what to consider when making a plan for nuclear war in your city. I'm going to put the link to this video in the comment section, so I encourage you to go on there and look, and that way you can have all the information available to you. All right, so again, you have to make plans, not just for you and your family to survive, but also if they're going to drag you into this through the draft, you know, or maybe it's not you, but your spouse, or maybe it's not you or your spouse, but it's your children. All right, so I really hope that all this information was really important to you, that it really made sense, that, you know, you got a lot of information out of this. And I hope that you consider things that you had not considered before that I mentioned. And now that you have that consideration, that you will implement it in your plan, okay? And also make sure that you practice. Always run your drills, especially if you have smaller children. Because, you know, they have to understand when to be quiet. You know, run a drill where, you know, they have to be quiet for a while. You know, you make the scene understand, like, you know, we have to be quiet. You know, we're hiding out. We have to be quiet. We have to sit here for a while. You know, you also have to run drills if they don't have any power. You know, you can make it seem like an EMP hitting your house. That means that you turn off all the breakers, except for the one for the refrigerator, and say, all right, for the next 24 hours, there's no internet, there's no cell phones, there's no TV, there's no computers, nothing. You know, they're going to be bored in 5 seconds, but then, you know, you can really work out and see, all right, this is how my family's going to react. You know, this is how quick my spouse got mad at me because I turned off the breakers. But we have to do this. You know, she's not able to cook because the stove is off and the microwave is not working. What are we going to do? What are we going to do for dinner? All right. And then that might turn into a camping real quick. But how long are you going to eat hot dogs for? You know, so those are the things that you have to consider. And make sure that you practice, run your drills, and have a sharp family for when crap hits the fan. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave you with those closing remarks. Again, I want to remind you about the book that I'm giving away for free. It's Preppers Secrete Cache. You can go to www.prepperssecretcache.com and get the book for free. But all we need your help with is shipping. All right, because the book retails for $24.99 and the shipping is only $9.99. So you are getting it for free. So I encourage you to go on there. Also, please go to the store, manmadesurvivalstore.com, and you can find all the things that you need for preparedness on there. We're gonna be moving some stuff around, get ready for the holidays. So I encourage you to check it out. And we also have, you know, discounts and stuff like that. So I encourage you to go on there. But anyways, again, I want to remind you, my name is Jose Prado. Always ready.